Good morning, everyone. My name is Dorothea. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And today I wanted to talk about Judaism. But before I do that, I like to wish everyone a wonderful week. Today is Monday. And I also like to read a quote from Lao Tzu from the Tao Te Ching. And it reads, "Empty yourself of everything. Let the mind become still. All things in the universe rise and fall, while the self watches their return. They grow and flourish, and then return to source. Returning to the source is stillness, which is the way of nature." So, that was a nice quote, I think, to start us off for the new week. And now I like to talk about Judaism. So let's start. Judaism starts in the Arabian desert, and all people back then, they were nomads, taking care of sheep and goats. And the nomads, they moved around to find lush grass and water for the animals. The early Hebrews, there were many tribes splattered around in different directions. Some of them, they went to Mesopotamia, and others ended up in Canaan or Palestine, or what now is called the Holy Land. The Jewish story, this Jewish story starts with a man called Abraham, and this man comes from the city of Ur. And Abraham later on moves his tribe to a city called Haran. Abraham at one time has a vision where God appears to him. In that vision, God appears to Abraham and tells him that he and his people are chosen people who have a mission to perform. To do this, God will lead them to a promised land where this mission is about to be started. As Jews saw it and still see it, God has chosen them to become that special people, with Abraham being the father of great people. So, Judaism starts in the Near or the Middle East, and the tribes who move to Mesopotamia, they come in contact with the people from Greece, from Turkey, and from Philistine. These people are called sea people because the Greeks, the Turks, and the Philistines, they come over the sea to Mesopotamia. The Philistines already have at that time knowledge about how to work iron. So they had already weapons, better weapons than the Hebrews without that knowledge to work iron. Okay? There are also tribes that settle in the south of Jerusalem from the Hebrews. So they split. Some went to Mesopotamia and others went to Jerusalem, south of Jerusalem, where the river Jordan runs from south to north. And the Hebrews who settle north of Galilee, they are on a strip of land from where they hardly get into contact with the Mediterranean region, because they are right there in a mountainous region. They settled there and there were mountains around them, so they were kind of secluded. Okay? These Hebrews who ended up there. A confederacy of 12 tribes settled in that region, and soon it becomes obvious that a leader, a king, is needed to hold the Hebrews together and give them some stability, because these 12 tribes there in this region, they never can make their mind up how life should be organized. They kind of have, each tribe has their own ideas and they do all kinds of things, but they are not in a united kind of confederacy. So they finally conclude, we need a leader, a real leader. We need a king who holds us together and gives us some stability. Okay? So the first Hebrew king who comes along is called King Saul. He fights the Philistines, but he is not very successful. He can fight them off for a little short while, but they always come back because they already have weapons, they are stronger, better organized. So in the end, this King Saul commits suicide because he's upset about that he wasn't successful helping out the Hebrews with his deed, that he couldn't fight the Philistines, and so he took his own life. And so the King Saul becomes a tragic person. He is seen as this tragic person by the Jews because of, well, what he did. Okay? With King David, the Hebrews have more luck. King David is seen by the Hebrews as the greatest king that Israel ever had. David conquers the Philistines and he drives them out of the country. After the Philistines are conquered, the kingdom can be expanded. Later, David's son Solomon is splitting this kingdom into a south kingdom where the tribe's name is Judah, and a north kingdom where the tribe's name is Ephraim or Israel. All in all, the kingdom in the north lasted 200 years, and the kingdom in the south lasted 340 years. Solomon, the son of King David, also built the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. He built a temple to worship the great God of the Jews and to honor this God by building this temple. Okay? When the first kingdom in the north falls, this kingdom was overpowered by the Assyrians. Then they moved in and were successful, and the kingdom in the north falls, is gone forever. The kingdom in the south continues to exist, but in 586 BCE, this kingdom too is gone. After the fall of the northern kingdom, the 10 northern tribes are called the 10 lost tribes of Israel. When the south kingdom is wiped out by the Assyrians in 586 BCE, the Hebrews are now in exile. So the period of the Jewish exile starts with that event in 586 BCE. What is referred to the Hebrew Bible as exile and Exodus can be seen by King David, because he is falling in the time before the exile. Okay, so King David comes before the period of exile, and with King Solomon, the time of exile starts for the Hebrews. Have no temple for worship, but now they have prophets. Now the Jews start their period having prophets, writing it down in the Hebrew Bible. Many Hebrews end up in exile in Babylon. The so-called upper classes of Judah, they are in Babylon. But the Babylonian time did not last long, because after 50 years they were overthrown by the Persians. Most Hebrews stayed in Babylon because they had it good there. They got involved in commerce and they were thriving, and so why leave that area, right? So they stayed right there in Babylon. Another group of Hebrews went back to rebuild their temple, which once was built by King Solomon but had been destroyed. So one part of the Hebrews stays in Babylon, and another part of the Hebrews, they are going back to rebuild a temple that once was built by Solomon but got destroyed over time. Okay? It's a difficult time for Hebrews, and they start to get doubtful. They ask if their God is a strong God. Some feel they have been punished by that God because their two kingdoms were destroyed, and as a result of it, they now must live in exile. So they start becoming doubtful, questioning if they pray to the right God, because if their God would be a good God, he certainly wouldn't allow for them to end up in exile. That was the thinking that went on for them to, well, make a sense out of their life, that they have now ended up in exile. Okay? In Judaism, the Torah is the most important scripture. The Torah contains the first 5 books of the Bible, and it has the teachings and laws for Jews to follow. The Hebrew Bible is called Torah or Tanakh, and writings about Jesus, all such writings, they are excluded from the Torah. The Jews erected a barrier to exclude from their holy scriptures everything that relates to Jesus. All the stories, all the deeds, all works of Jesus are not mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, because the Jews do not accept Jesus as the Messiah. Jesus is only a prophet to the Jews. They accept Jesus as a great prophet, but not more than that. So that was a short introduction, how the history of the Jews was shaped and came into being. Next time I will talk about the beginning of a man named Moses and his encounter on Mount Sinai with God named Yahweh. Okay, so I hope this short introduction set the stage to continue in my next video when we talk about Moses. He appears and his mission is to lead the Jews out of exile and to unite them and make a big nation out of them, to reunite them all on the land that is called Israel. Okay, so we will talk about Moses, how he appears, what his mission is, what he has to do to bring the great people back to their land and make them free from the times where they have become slaves in Egypt and where they are splattered all around, living apart from each other, to make them the one nation that they needed to be, to become strong and survive all adversaries of life. Okay, so we will talk about that in my next video. And I hope today that was a little introduction to, give us a little insight into the history of the Hebrews. Okay, so what's more to say? Well, I made a juice. I already took some sips from it. This is lots of spinach, cucumbers, and orange. Okay, so let me take a sip. And I hope everybody is well, healthy, happy, and we are all very lucky, the ones who do not have to deal with a war. I'm just thinking about the Ukrainian people who have to deal with this war that's going on, and I hope they all stay safe and that their families are safe and that this whole nightmare comes to an end soon. Okay, we were, here in Europe we didn't have a war for a long time that came that close to the doors. In my country, I have to say, because there's always some conflict going on, but Russia is pretty close to Germany, so it's kind of scary what's going on there, and I hope that soon this comes to an end and people realize that nothing really is won by fighting wars on earth. Nothing really is ever won, because people die, countries are destroyed, houses are burned down, and all these horrible things that go on when a war takes place. So I hope that this comes soon to an end, and I pray for everybody all over the world who has some kind of hardship to go through, and I hope that we all one day really find a solution to all this misery that's constantly started by human beings who think they have to run other countries and who think they can accomplish anything by bombing cities and hurting people. Okay, so I hope that the Iranians survive it somehow and it comes to an end soon. Okay, I wish you all a wonderful week, and I will come back on Wednesday talking about Moses. Okay, so thank you for listening and have a wonderful day, and I send out love to everyone. Okay, goodbye.